Hello, everybody. My name is Jared Sell, and I am the Writing Skill Area Supervisor at BYU's English Language Center. And this presentation is just to talk a little bit about my experience teaching online and what that's been like. And I would like to share a couple things that have worked really well for me teaching online, specifically teaching reading and writing. So the first thing I'd like to, or the main thing I'd like to talk about is using Google Docs and Google Sheets in an online classroom. Now, most of us have probably already used these in the classroom when teaching face-to-face. And so nothing is totally different, but I think it's just kind of reimagining how we use these. So first, with writing, I'd like to talk about a couple things with daily writing practice for students, as well as using Google Docs to help aid in the writing process, specifically with brainstorming, researching, and outlines. And then I would like to also talk a little bit at the end about reading and how that has worked with having class online. So I'd like to share my screen with you to show you a couple of these documents that have already been created, and I can talk a little bit about how it works and how well it's worked for my class. So first thing is the daily writing. So this is a document that I created, and you can see the students are supposed to write for 10 minutes without stopping to look up words or translate. So it's designed as a writing fluency activity, and this has worked really great for my writing class this semester. You can see I have the dates, and in this box here for each day, I would have a writing prompt. Students would read the writing prompt, and then I would set a timer, and they would write for 10 minutes and just write their response in here. It was really great because I'm able to give them feedback and I'm able to see their writing, which is really awesome. And it doesn't get lost on a piece of paper somewhere. They don't have to have a pencil. They're already sitting at a computer for class anyway, connected to Zoom or whatever system you're using. So this has been really great. I'm able to see real time the work that they're doing. And down here at the bottom, you can see there's different sheets. And so for a class, I would put the student's name there. And then each class, I would share the document with them or post it somewhere on an LMS so that they can access it every day and go to that day and write. So great way to grab informal information from the students, kind of an informal assessment, so to speak. And this is something, of course, that I do every day, but we skip days occasionally, depending on what the class load is doing that day. The second thing for writing class that I've used is just a simple Google Doc that I created when my students were writing a historical figure essay. And so since I wasn't able to be there in person with them and be able to see their progress as they brainstormed or as they outlined, I wanted to have it all in one place. And so I created this document, and then I asked students to, like it says here, make a copy of the document and share it with me. That enabled me to be able to have access to their document and be able to do a couple things. Number one, I was able to see real time again what they were doing in class. So if I gave them time in class to work on this, I was able to see them typing. Also, when they share it with me, Google Docs gives you an option up here at the top if you're shared with somebody to actually chat with them. So instead of having to chat on Zoom or whatever system you're using, you can chat with them directly in the document. And that's been really great. They could ask questions. I could kind of give a little bit more guidance. So I've just split it up for pre-writing specifically for this particular assignment, but I know you could use this in lots of ways. Mostly just have brainstorm research with some tips on maybe how to go about the researching. Again, this is for a higher level writing class, so they're ready for this type of writing, but could easily be adapted for a lower level class as well. And then, of course, the last thing is an outline, and what I require from them in an outline is pretty basic, but again, more detail could be used here depending on the level of the class. So those are a couple things I've used for writing, and I love having it in Google Drive. I have a folder of my own where I keep all the information, all the documents that are created, and students have access to it as well. And again, since they're sitting at a computer anyway, we might as well utilize this technology to help them progress. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention was something related to reading. We do a lot of reading fluency where we track their speed and comprehension. And this is can be done as frequently as you want, but I typically do it once a week. And so give them a passage to read, and passages could come from really anywhere, as long as you know the Lexile level, which is helpful. And, you know, for your students, making sure that you give them something that's not too difficult for them to read, but also not too easy. So I give them the title, I tell them what the Lexile level is, but you could let them choose if you really wanted to. I just like having it so that everybody's reading the same passage and we can kind of see everybody's progress week to week. They set a words per minute goal. They want to see how quickly they can read. And then they compute that at the end, and then actually say how quickly they did read it. You could have them read it again and set a second goal to try to read faster. Again, record their attempts, and then finally answering comprehension questions that are associated with that particular passage is what is asked for here with the percentage. And so this is a great way to have it all in one place. Again, you have access to it as the instructor. Students know where it is. They can go find it. It can be assigned as homework. It can be done in class. Either way, it's great to use Google Sheets here to have access to the materials that students need. Now, I'd like to go back one more time to just kind of answer a couple questions and kind of wrap things up for this presentation. So some questions to be thinking about. Number one, what are the benefits of these activities or these things I've talked about? Number one, it's all stored in one place. Like I mentioned, that's super great. It's accessible to everybody. Number two, accountability. I like the fact that I, as a teacher, can see what students are doing real time, especially since I'm not there in a classroom with them, being able to see that they're actually working. Number three, familiarity. It's great with Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets. Google Sheets, maybe not so much, but definitely Google Docs. Most people are very familiar with them. And so using the technology is something they're adept at is great. They don't have to learn anything new. And lastly, another benefit I like of it is they can still complete these activities while connected to Zoom or whatever system you use. So they don't have to disconnect to be able to use something on their computer. They can access it this way. Some of the drawbacks, I think some of them are fairly obvious. Number one being internet connection, right? If that fails, then, you know, it's going to be really difficult to do anything for class. But the second thing I've noticed is the settings on Google Docs and Google Sheets. You just have to be familiar with it as a teacher to know that you have the right settings, so that students can either just view it or edit it depending on what the activity is. The ones that I've showed, obviously, students have editing access to, otherwise they wouldn't be able to complete the activity. And then another potential drawback is eventually, or occasionally, there are students who are not familiar with Google Drive or Google Docs, and that may take a little bit of teaching or bringing them up to speed. And then a couple other questions. And this is one that I don't totally have an answer to yet, but, you know, how have students reacted to using these tools or these activities? Like I said, to be determined, but I think students have enjoyed having access to everything in one place. But that is something that I do want to gather more data on. And last question is, how can these be adapted? I think they can be adapted in many different ways, particularly for easier or lower level writing classes, or even more difficult writing classes. The class I'm teaching right now is one of the highest writing classes that we teach at the ELC. But I think these could be either be added to or simplified to fit your particular context for your particular students. But again, the way I look at these activities is, here's an activity, or here's a vehicle. In other words, Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets. Here's a vehicle now. How can I use that to accomplish my purposes or my course learning outcomes or objectives? And that's what's been really helpful for me as I've been teaching reading and writing online this semester. Now, if you have any questions, or you are interested in like a copy of any of those documents that I've shown or shared, please send me an email. There's my email there on the screen. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, and I wish you luck as you continue to teach online. Thank you.